Yavo Ezri, Ezri Meim Adonai, Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz, Ezri Meim Adonai, Oseh Shamayim Va'aretz. I am so sorry for your loss. And I am so sorry for our loss here at BJBE. Your mom and dad, Bill and Lynn, were the fabric, as I said to you, of this community in so many ways. And it is hard to think about one without the other. And we know that Bill's death is only compounded by the fact that Lynn, facing her own health struggles, cannot be here today. And we know that if it were possible, there is nowhere else that she would be. And we are heartbroken for all of you. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. Adonai roi lo echsar bino desheyer bitseni al mei menuchot yenahaleini nafshi yeshovev Yeshovev Yancheni v'magelei tzadak Yancheni v'magelei tzadak Leman shemo Gam ki elech Megeit al mavet lo irara ki ata imadi shivetecha umishanetecha heima yanachamuni ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged zorai tishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya Ach tov v'chesed yirdafuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar. Adonai roi lo echsar. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We are an ancient people, and we are well acquainted with the valley of shadows. Grief and strangers, death and sorrow are not strangers to us, yet the centuries have taught us that a good name endures beyond the grave, and that there is strength in faith. And so we say with Job, Adonai Natan, God, you have given. You gave us Bill, who will not be forgotten. For all that was good and enduring in his life, we offer the deepest thanks of our hearts. Adonai lakach, and God, you have taken away. And so we pray now for the strength to turn our broken hearts into an altar of trust. As we acknowledge your sovereignty and your love, and we say, Yehi Shem Adonai Mavarach, blessed be the name of God now and forever. It does great honor when those who knew us the best rise up to speak words of love and of praise. So it's my honor now to invite Shelley and Alan and Lisa to come forward and to share words of memory and words of love.
Well, when I think of Dad, Poppy, two words that come to mind are family and integrity. Shelley, Lisa, and I, firsthand, we've seen how amazing their children are, and that ties back to the love and the values that they imparted on their children and ultimately to their grandchildren. His spirit is with all of us and will certainly be handed down to subsequent generations.
Dad, thank you. Thank you for the unconditional love that you gave to Andrew, Anna, Abby, and me from day one. We were your own, and you were very proud of us. As your Shiksa daughter-in-law, I want to thank you. Thank you for being such a wonderful, strong, and loving role model for us. I will never forget, in the very first year of us joining your family, you took Andrew to buy shoes for Mom's Na'amat induction in Las Vegas. And Andrew had forgotten his shoes, dress shoes, and Poppy said, not a problem, taking care of it. So off the two of you went in the sweltering Las Vegas heat to find dress shoes together. Truly an image I hold to this day. You and Mom were always there for us, front and center, for all the milestones, sacraments, no matter what the event, you were there, front and center. Even on Saturdays, when you had dental office hours, you were still there. Thank you for the beautiful family that you and Mom raised. They are amazing, kind, understanding, and smart children. Thank you for the gift of spending time together in your final days. I will forever treasure the time just holding hands, sitting, listening to music, classical music. It was beautiful. and I will cherish it forever. Thank you for raising your amazing son, Alan, to be the loving, kind, accepting, logical, and scary smart man that he is today. He is a wonderful husband and father to the children, and we will treasure him always. We love you forever and are eternally grateful. We love you, Dad and Poppy. Rest in peace. And as I said at the end of our last time together, Dad, I'll just see you another time. We promise we will take care of Mom. We've got it from here. We love you, Dad.
Thank you all so much for being here on this crazy, freezing Chicago day. Thanks to our amazing family teamwork for the last long time period. Thanks to our dear Cantor Frost and the whole BJBE team, and Simca and Chicago Jewish Funerals, and Randy and the Shiva ladies. Couldn't have done it without any of you. I'm Shelley Wax. I'm Poppy's 5th kid, 2nd in-law kid, but of course I'm the favorite. I married Poppy's 2nd son, David, who we lost way too young, 14 years ago. I know he's here with us in spirit, as is our son Adam and his fiancée Mackenzie, a bit tough to get here quickly from a trip to Asia. We also wish Nani could be at Temple with us, of course, today too. I was blessed to join the Wax family 35 years ago. Love taking the Wax name. Hard to mispronounce that one. Poppy was my buddy. He was always so warm and smiley and welcoming to me. He always made me feel like one of his own. And then when I started dating Joel, Poppy embraced him as his own as well. I lost my own dad 19 years ago today, so Poppy really has been my own, just like my own dad. He always called me Shell. Love that. Only people in my closest circle are allowed to call me Shell. Nani and Poppy were always here for all of us, helped take care of all our children, went to all of our children's events. But the best memory of Poppy was when we were all just hanging out together in their Morton Grove family room on the big old L-shaped couch with the turquoise wax color pillows, while David was asleep on the carpet and Alan and Poppy were asleep on the couch. We'll miss you very much. Poppy, I was so honored to hold your hand for your last breath. We love you, and we are also thankful to have you in our lives. We're thankful you're now at peace. We know you were ready.
Benji and Stephanie.
Hi, so my name is Stephanie Minter. I am one of the grandkids. Poppy, as the grandkids refer to him, he was not one for what I would think of as traditional displays of affection. I mean, the first time he met my now husband, Jeff, he put him in a headlock. But whether it was sharing his vast knowledge, as was the case with the headlock, or collecting coins that he would give us when he saw us, or supporting us in our interests, he had so many of his own ways of showing his affection, and there was never any question how much he cared about all of us. The grandkids were talking before this, and all of us have different core memories with him. One of mine is being able to bond over classical music. He absolutely loved classical music up until his very last day, and I am an oboist. So being able to talk to him about what was I learning, what was I playing, what performances were coming up, having him weigh in on my practice sessions, and I really loved, he wasn't big on phone calls, but he would call me up anytime the oboe came on the radio because he knew I would love it and he didn't want me to miss it. Back to core memories, one core memory that the grandkids shared was back in that Morton Grove house, Nani and Poppy had this massive crawl space. And he would bring us down for what we would call rides in the crawl space. So he would say, do you want to go for a ride in the crawl space? And we would all fight for who wanted to go first. And he would take us from the stairs and pick us up and put us on this cart. And then he would race us up and down these rows, and we would be screaming, laughing. We had so much fun going for these rides in the crawl space. Now, fast forward a little bit, and a year ago, Jeff and I had our first kid, a son who we named Landon William Minter, after Poppy. And we wanted to take as many opportunities as we could to get Landon time with his great-grandfather. And the most recent time, a few months ago, we were sitting at their place at Gidwitz, and Poppy looks at Landon and looks at me and says, does Landon want to go for a ride on my walker? And so, sure enough, we took Landon, we picked him up, we put him on the seat on Poppy's walker. He held on to those handrails, and Poppy pushed him as fast as he could around the lobby of Gidwitz. And I will forever treasure that memory because not only could I see in my son the joy and thrill and excitement that I remember, that the grandkids remember when we were kids, but I got to see it on Poppy's face and how much he loved Landon the same way he loved us.
When great trees fall, rocks on distant hills shudder. Lions hunker down in tall grasses, even elephants lumber after safety. When great trees fall in forests, small things recoil into silence, their senses eroded beyond fear. Maya Angelou got me thinking about great trees. Great trees are quiet. Unless you take the time to really notice them, they're often more of the background of a moment than the focal point. Still, they stand strong and anchored, year by year, season after season. We often don't notice the tree giving us shade, protection, support, figs and dates. We don't realize how much of the landscape around us is because of that one tree. Whether the seedlings that grow to be their own mighty oaks and maples, or as a refuge for animals and pollinators themselves, weaving the building blocks of nature. When great trees fall, they leave a hole in the canopy, but with time, it will regrow. When great trees fall, they become a part of the forest that they helped build. And although you can't see them, they are truly and deeply etched into the fiber of all that grows after them, because of them. A great tree has fallen. And there was a line that repeated in my head after I heard the news. And you shall teach them faithfully to your children. This refers to the Shema, and more broadly, the Ten Commandments. I learned later, which is often customary to be a prayer said to a dying loved one, that this was indeed the last prayer recited to with Poppy. And it made me think about all that Poppy taught to his kids and to his grandkids, and how foundational his teachings and his wisdom was. And so in some of these memories make me smile, and some hit harder, but of the overarching values, arching values of hard work, watching a man be a dentist for 65 years of learning. I remember as we were young, he would take, his grandkids to the science museums, and he would always have random puzzles and sticklers with these little puzzles he cut up from the newspaper to give us every time we would see him and ask us to solve these riddles. I remember he got me a science kit for my birthday one time that had a scalpel in it that later cut my brother's finger open one time. But the intention was pure and noble. Getting us into reading. I think he introduced me to Harry Potter. I don't know if, was that?
I think I had already, but yeah.
I remember for one project, he taught me how to use, it was a science fair, or like a science class, and the project was about national parks, and every student got a national park, and you had to do like sort of show and tell. And I had a very vague idea. He's like, no, this is what we're going to do. And so he took a random scrap of wood, and he's like, we're going to make a waterfall. And so we like glued a bunch of rocks to this piece of wood, and he's like, I've got this old pump in the basement. So this man devises a pump in like this metal basin with like water, and then the pump's supposed to take the water up to the top and go down. Needless to say, the day of the actual water show, it flooded everywhere. My desk was destroyed, everything inside. But I appreciated where he was going at. And in a similar vein, he climbed a tree in our backyard, like classic like wood planks nailed up the trunk treehouse tree, as a grandpa to help me install a zip line with like a real metal cable and like a pulley system and all that stuff. And we'll always remember that. That was the coolest grandpa thing you could ever do. The whole neighborhood was just so impressed. The man, of course, loved music, as Steph talked about. He played flute and violin growing up. And that love of music, combined with his love, or his deep patience, I would say, as he came to all of our concerts as kids, listening to all of that. Steph's were very good, but ours were not as good. And all the soccer games as kids. The man was always prepared. He knew how to fix everything, always had whatever you needed in his pockets, always had a pen, always had a notebook. He was a strong guy. I mean, doing pull-ups even as a grandfather, doing push-ups, all that. And really just teaching us the value of health and what it meant to him, flossing all the time. Like, for those who knew him in his older years, he had some dental floss on his walker. But I also think he had dental floss on his steering wheel, too, at one point. Everything from his phase of, eating pizza with no cheese on it, eating meals in an interesting order to aid his digestion, his like head temple pressing, like magic thing, and electrolyte potions, his brutal neck massages, for anyone who remembers those, and of course curing hiccups by drinking from the opposite side of the water cup. He taught us to stick to our guns and do your own thing, like eating an apple with a giant knife, or driving with both your feet, the carafe, of course. And a couple just quick quips of his before I close. He was a jokester. I think a lot of my sense of humor, a lot of Alan's, my father's, all come from him. So when you groan, you can blame this guy. Someone would say, I'll be back. He'd say, don't threaten us, which maybe someone can help me understand. I still don't get it. I remember one time asking him about his time in the Air Force, and I know he was a dentist. And I was like, in my mind, I'm picturing you like doing dentistry on the airplanes. And he's like, no, we did dentistry on the pilots. I was talking about, he asked me how my night was one time. I was out in Lincoln Park or something. I was like, oh, the bar was fine, but it was like all the same kind of guy, and they were all wearing the same shirt. And he was like, it must have been a big shirt. And of course, the classic that I will hear echoing in my mind until my final days is, remember, Benj, you don't have to floss all your teeth, just the ones you want to keep. Poppy was devoted to family, to kids, his wife, his profession, also to JAG and Blue Bloods and Joan of Arc and split pea soup from boobies. I'm grateful beyond measure for my grandfather, the foundation of so much that I am. I'll miss his wry grin, his wisdom, and that twinkle in his eye. Maya Angelou finishes, and when great souls pass away after a period, peace blooms, slowly and always irregularly. Spaces fill with a kind of soothing electric vibration. Our senses restored, never to be the same, whisper to us, they existed. they existed. We can be and be better, for they existed. Zichrono livracha. May his memory be for a blessing. Thank you all for being here.
So beautiful, all of you. Bill was born in Milwaukee to Jacob and Doris. He was the older brother to Cy by 2 years. And I was told yesterday, when you were young, you moved from Milwaukee to the north side of Chicago, and Bill and Cy grew up in a traditional Jewish home. Faith was extremely important to your parents, and I think it really formed who Bill became and how he lived. They had Shabbat dinner each and every Friday night, a tradition, Lisa, that you remember attending at your grandparents' as you and your brothers were growing up. They spoke Yiddish in their home. And I was told that when Bill went to kindergarten, on the very first day, he got in trouble because the teacher called him by his name, and he had never heard it in English. He had only heard it in Yiddish. So he didn't answer, and the teacher was rather upset. So he learned English by immersing himself and being immersed in school. He played violin, as we heard. He was a swimmer, and eventually he became a lifeguard. And during the summers, his family went to Workman's Circle Camp in Michigan. And it was there that he met Lynn. She was somewhere between 14 and 16 years old when they met. He was a lifeguard, she was a counselor, and he was smitten with her, and she was not so interested in him. But he was persistent, and eventually she agreed to go out with him, and they got married in 1957, the day before her 20th birthday. And you shared with me that on her wedding day, it was either right before the wedding or as she was walking down the aisle, she kept repeating, "I can always get divorced. I can always get divorced." Well, I just have to say, after 68 years, I would say I think Lynn and Bill did something right. I asked you yesterday why you thought your mom loved your dad, and you shared that Dad was kind and caring, smart, good-looking, and he was a dentist. And she was proud of that. They were married, went into the Air Force. He was a dentist in the Air Force, yes, on pilots, not planes. And while you were in the Air Force, Alan was born. And then they moved back 6 months later or so from Dover to Morton Grove. Bill opened his dental practice in Chicago. He was a part of the Dental Society. He served on the board. He was editor of the newsletter. And as you told me yesterday, your dad loved taking care of people. He loved being a dentist, so much so that he often gave his dental care away for free. Public health, Medicaid, the Orthodox community, he didn't want people to go without getting the care that they needed. 2 years after Lynn and Bill moved back to Chicago, David was born. And then Lisa, you came 2 years later. And you told me that he was a good father. He worked hard and he tried to be present for all of your activities. If he was going to be late for dinner because there was an emergency or he was stopping at the lab, which apparently he was always stopping at the lab, he always called. He would help you with homework but never give you the answer, and you found that super frustrating. And yet, you all seemed to say that this was something that you continued to do with your own children. He was an honest man with extraordinary integrity. If you got change from a store and you had been given 1 penny over what you should have been, he made you go back into the store and return the penny. He taught you to drive a stick shift and how to change a tire. And you remember road trips. Maybe you want to ask Lisa about the time that Bill left her at a rest stop. Just for a couple of miles, they told me, until they figured it out and they went back to get her. He was a master of useless information, you told me, a trivia whiz, and he loved a good museum. So sometimes now when you go to museums, maybe you don't read every word, but some people that are with you might read more words than that. And as a father-in-law, he was wonderful to Shelley, Alan, and Lisa, as you heard. He loved you like you were his own children, and he had strong relationships and bonds with each of you. He just wanted to help where he could. He was accepting and welcoming and genuinely wanted to know who you were, what you believed. He simply loved you. And of course, there was no greater joy for Bill than his grandchildren. And what a tribe he and Lynn raised. We heard about the crawl space, and I just want you to know I saw the picture of Landon yesterday on the walker. And this crawl space is not a crawl space, apparently, that one might think of, because it wasn't a crawl space in which you crawled. It was a crawl space in which you could fully walk. So that is a tradition, I think, that is so beautiful, and so beautiful that you got to experience that with your son and with Poppy. He loved driving you everywhere. He went to all of your things that he could go to, and he loved spending time with you. And I will tell you that when Lynn and Bill were here, they would sit in the congregation and they would tell us all about what you were up to and what was going on, with the biggest smiles on their faces, ever present and wanting to be and show their pride in who all of you have become. And as we heard, Bill was a fixer. He knew his way around a toolbox. You built a zip line with your Poppy in the backyard. And he would often want to come and help wherever he could, to be able to teach and to be able to fix the things in your lives, in your houses, that you needed to be fixed. And he would just show up and be there. And we know that his life wasn't easy. No one should outlive their children. It's not the natural order of things. And everyone handles grief differently. And for Bill, after David died, it was easier to hold things close and to seek solace inward. And yet, he persevered. He kept coming here to his beloved BJBE, surrounding himself with community, learning, family. And I believe it was his deep faith as well that helped him navigate David's death. And these past few years, with the decline of Lynn's memory, have been tremendously difficult. And your dad was a devoted caregiver and a fierce advocate for your mom. And as you told me yesterday, in many ways, it became his life's work. And it was frustrating, and it was challenging. And as the most honest man that you all knew, your dad could not bear to lie to your mom. He just wanted to bring her into the reality here, and that was a struggle every day. And as we know with dementia patients, we have to live in their reality and not in ours. And while this was devastating for him, and no doubt for all of you, he handled it, as you shared with me, with patience and with dignity and with tremendous class. Indeed, Bill lives behind a legacy of which to be proud, one of honesty and integrity, one of kindness and compassion, humor and tremendous strength. And he would tell you to be prepared for anything. Have a Swiss Army knife in your pocket. He would tell you to challenge yourself, to constantly learn something new, as he was always doing, and be willing to teach others. He leaves behind a legacy of deep faith and of loving and being proud of who you are in your Judaism. And of course, the biggest legacy of all, is all of you. It's his family. And he would remind you at this moment to take care of each other, to be there for one another. For there is no greater gift than family. May his memory be for a blessing. I'll invite you now to please rise for El Malei Rachamim, the memorial prayer. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamaromim, Hamsei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, Im Kedoshim Uteorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmat Ze'ev Ben Yankov Taibel, Shalach Leolamo, Baal Rachamim, Yastireu Beseter Knafav, Leolamim Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato, Adonai Hu Nachalato, V'yanuach B'Shalom Al Mishkavo, V'nomar Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to William Wax, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence and in the shadow of your wings, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. And we say together, Amen. Please be seated.
This concludes the service here in the temple. The term will take place at Shalom Memorial Park. For those of you joining the family in procession, we'll be lining up right in front of the temple. We'll be placing a magnetic flag on your vehicle. We ask to have your headlights and hazard lights on while in procession. At the conclusion of the tournament, the family will be returning to BJBE, where they'll be here for sitting shiva from 1 till 4 p.m. While driving in procession, we ask that you drive as close as safety permits and have your headlights and hazard lights on. If we can all rise and have all the grandkids come forward, we'll be acting as pallbearers. Once we've left the sanctuary, we ask everybody to go immediately to their vehicles. If we can have the pallbearers come forward, and we can have everybody please rise.